We all have people in our lives that help shape who we are. We carry a piece of these people with us every day. Some of these pieces take us up more of us than others do. Today I will share with you one of my major influences in my life, a large piece of who shaped who I am today, my father, Harry Wurlitz. There are many sides to my father, and it all depends on what you actually see. A pair of piercing, icy blue eyes framed by thick, full eyebrows, a square, angular face and jawline, a set of thin, pursed lips, military brush cut, strong, stocky frame, always maintaining good posture. At first glance, upon viewing this man, one can feel slightly intimidated. His mere presence demanded respect. Who would think that this stern, stoic face that looks at you could instantly turn into a comedic face that is so contagious that one can't help but smile and laugh along? Growing up, I always viewed my father as a strict parent, the strict rule enforcer who always commanded our best behavior. Our rooms were always clean, homework always done, and tardiness was not tolerated. Good manners always were to be employed. And this is how it was growing up until early adulthood. This all changed in July 2000, the Germany trip. My sister, father, and I went to Germany to visit my Oma. And the last time we traveled to Germany, I was only 7 and my sister a toddler. Therefore, any recollection or memories of our last trip were very vague. This was going to be the first trip with our father as adults. Upon arrival, it was cute to see the change in my father's persona, from strict parent to obedient child. I can recall my father getting in trouble at the dinner table for accidentally dribbling onto the tablecloth and occasionally placing his elbow on the table. My sister and I playfully teased him, and he playfully accepted our jostling. We bonded in a way like never before, for there we were all kids. It was enlightening to see him in a different perspective, but alas, this all did not last. As soon as we got home, my father again quickly transformed from fellow child to parent. The strong, stern man who was always invincible and brave, too, had a soft side. Like all of us, he too was only human. My father never got ill, or at least as far as we knew. He was still and is one of the most health-conscious people that I know. A frequent customer of the health food stores, he was Mr. Organic. Natural supplements filled his medicine cabinet. We grew up drinking foul-tasting liquid vitamins daily, and I could still taste it. His work record was immaculate, not one sick call. In all the 40 years of employment, he only missed 2 days, and they weren't due to sickness. He was actually snowed in during a blizzard and could not get to work. There was an incident when he got into a car accident en route to work, received stitches to his forehead, and still went. He was invincible, or so we thought. In November of 2007, after I just arrived home from a night shift and finished dropping off my children to school, I received a disturbing phone call from my mother stating that my father had collapsed and the ambulance was on their way to their house. My father told me that he had the stomach flu 2 days earlier, failing to tell me, of course, that he had blood in his diarrhea. As it turned out, my father arrived at the hospital with a hemoglobin of 42, and the normal for male adults are usually 140 to 160. He had been basically bleeding out for days. They transfused him and scoped him to try to find the source of the bleed, but they could not identify anything. He stayed in the hospital for observation, and there they prepared him to undergo another diagnostic test to determine the source of bleeding when he collapsed, and he coded, thus sending him for emergency surgery. They found him in the bathroom with a toilet full of fresh blood. After 6 long hours in surgery, the doctor came and told us that he had to remove a portion of his colon, and that my dad now had a colostomy. My dad woke up in shock with what had happened to him. Just imagine waking up to find out that a piece of you is missing. For 1 week, my father was a prized patient, complying with the orders and seemingly healing quickly. He was coping with his colostomy and was preparing for discharge. And during his hospital stay, I would dutifully come see him daily and help him wash and change. After all, I was his daughter, the nurse. He refused help from the staff there and only wanted me to assist him, which was fine with me, because after all, he is my father. On the Monday following my father's surgery, I had come and assisted my father after work, telling him that I would return with our mother after I went home and fed my children, only to return to the hospital to find the medical staff frantically working on him. He experienced another massive bleed, and he needed to undergo another emergency surgery. That evening, the doctor removed the remaining part of his colon, and my father was sent to ICU. The doctor told us that he couldn't believe how much stress my father's body could handle, for this was the second time that they had to resuscitate him due to such a massive blood loss. Seeing my father in ICU was quite disturbing, for there lay my father, the man of steel, who was in my eyes invincible, intubated, assisting him with his breathing, attached to monitors and several IV tubing, blood infusing, basically the works. He looked so frail and lifeless, shadow of the man I called Dad. At 2 o'clock we left the unit, planning to return in the morning, when at 8 o'clock the phone rang. It was the ICU telling me that I had to come to the hospital immediately and that my father had crashed again, thus requiring another emergency surgery. Apparently the doctor did not find the bleed and my father suffered another massive blood loss. His doctor again completed an emergency scope and he could not find the source and seek the opinion of another colleague. His colleague identified that the source of bleeding was a large blood vessel in his lower aspect of his stomach and therefore an immediate patch needed to be done. The surgery was completed and the surgeon explained that his colon was innocently removed, for the source of bleeding wasn't the colon after all. My father recovered quickly from his 3 surgeries, 2 of which were within 8 hours of each other, miraculously. We later found out that he was resuscitated a total of 4 times. We only initially knew of 2. I almost lost my father several times, and the idea of that was very, very disturbing. I gained a deeper level of respect for him, for only during that time did I realize that he too was only human and that he is aging. Life is such a precious commodity, and I realize that my father may not be invincible, but his fighting spirit helped him to survive. My father has been a great influence in my life, and I have learned many valuable lessons from him. Growing up, he taught me to be respectful and dutiful. He influenced my strong work ethic, and even as an adult, my father continues to teach me my life lessons. I've gotten to know the child in him. Even a parent plays a role of a child. And I've also seen his weak physical side, a side that I never thought or wanted to see. So let me close this by saying that I am who I am because of my father.